Thank you, God. Thank you for the first Sundays. Thank you for our journey. Last week we were talking about thank you for our becoming, all that we are evolving into. And today it is thank you for our gifts and talents. Now, I'm sure for most of us, probably all of us, the attacks in Paris are first and foremost in our hearts and in our minds. And so I want to let you know I am going to be talking about it a little bit later in the talk where I'm leading up to it. So we want to talk about gratitude, or gratitude in giving our gifts and our talents. We just heard a great reading about how powerful it is to be generous, to give of ourselves. So then the question, and also to really understand the power of that of putting that energy out there really hit me one time when I was reading in Hinduism. They have this thing called 3 gunas, or 3 qualities. The highest one is the sattvic quality, which is purity and goodness. And then the next one is sattvic. Oh, I can't believe I went blank. Rajasic. And that's passion and activity, where we're giving passionately and actively. And the lowest one is called tamasic. I've never said them out loud before. I can read it, though. It's Tamasic. Tamasic, and that's inertia, which is darkness. And what they were saying, it's funny because I was reading 3 different books all at the same time, so it was clearly a message I needed to really understand, which is that inertia, when we don't move, when we don't act, when we don't give, is actually the worst, the hardest place to shift from. So today I was saying that what I see our purpose is to wake up and to serve, to give of our gifts. But it's even hard to wake up if we're feeling inertia, that they actually feed on one another. So it is better, as Yogananda said, it is better to be giving passionately and actively, even if it's in a completely wrong direction, than to be inert. That movement itself is the key. And so what blocks us from doing that? What blocks us from being generous? Sometimes we're not generous because we're not sure of ourselves. A lot of times I notice people sort of wait. We kind of wait till someone asks us to do something because we feel like, well, I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to step on someone's toes. I've heard that a lot. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Please step on our toes. Whether it's in this community, in your family, in your workplace, just go out and do it. And part of the whole idea of shared leadership is, yes, we might be redirected. I love that's why I think it hit me so much what Yogananda said, is because it's better to move forward. It's better to say, oh, I can see that needs to be done, and move forward and do it, or offer, hey, I see this as a need in the community. I'd like to start something along that line and get the conversation going, than to just wait and see if it's going to be the right thing, or if they really want it, or if someone's going to ask me to do it. Because it gets the energy of flow going. Do we see how that just saying yes, seeing something that needs to be done in my home, or that's kind of what we're working on with Julian, is to not anyone who has children, it's where they move from the step of waiting for mom and dad to ask them to do that. We know they've developmentally shifted when they start saying, oh, this is my home and I'm participating. I'm part of the family. I'm part of the team. I can do this without being asked. That's a big shift when that starts to happen. And that can be at anywhere in our work life when we take initiative. Another way we can give, but we don't sometimes want to, is we feel like we have to be perfect, or we have to be better before we really give our true gifts, our genuine gifts, the gifts we came here. So we have to do so much work inwardly, and this happens a lot in our movement, because we talk a lot about healing. And so we want to heal, we want to wake up. So I said the purpose, all of our purpose is to wake up and to serve. And I think for many people, the idea is, I need to wake up first and then serve. And the idea is that they actually both play with each other. That in serving we wake up, and in waking up we serve. They're happening simultaneously. One of my examples for that is Mahatma Gandhi. I had the great joy of reading his autobiography. I don't know if anyone else read his autobiography? It's called, yeah, that's great. It's called My Experiments with Truth. It's fairly long. And it starts off, and he talks about his childhood, and he spent about 18, 20 years in South Africa before he went to India. And he's practicing the nonviolent resistance to gain equality. And he's passionate. This becomes his life. But he also recognizes, well, I'm not doing this in my own life. So I'm asking my wife, I'm getting mad at her because she's not cleaning the toilet, but I'm not willing to clean the toilet because I think I'm better than her. And so he started cleaning the toilet as part of his practice. He started noticing where he was abusive to people he thought were less than him in his own home. He didn't wait till he perfected his life at home before he did his service outside. They informed one another because there's no inner and there's no outer. That's a human idea of understanding God is all of it. So I can work on the external and impact my interior life, and I can work on my interior life and work on the exterior life. This is that law of circulation, this law of generosity, that when we are generous with the gifts that whatever we've been given, it comes back to us and is serving us and our waking up and our own enlightenment, our own awareness of our oneness and union in God. So the idea is to continue to ask ourselves, how can I give more? How can I continue to be generous? Because it's going to feed me to be generous. Where am I withholding? Another reason why we withhold is often because we don't. I said today our talk was, thank you for my gifts and talents. And I know some people say, I don't really have gifts and talents to offer. I have offer kindness or a smile, but I don't really have a gift or a talent. Just our being is a gift and a talent. We have this idea of big and small in our mind. So there's a great story from the Spiritual Leadership 1 class that I got Michelle Schmidt's permission to share this because I thought it was just so brilliant. She was in her small, they split up to small groups, and she was sharing in her small group. I don't even know what the question was because I wasn't there, but she was sharing this story where she would go, of her 3 siblings, she would be the only one to go visit her grandmother who lived in an apartment across Lake Merritt. And what she liked to do when she would go visit her grandmother in this apartment building was to stay in the elevator and go up and down on the elevator, welcoming all the new people coming in on the elevator. And apparently, as her group is listening, they all start laughing. And they're like, you were preparing to be head of greeters here at Center for Spiritual Living. It's your destiny to be a greeter. I love that story. Because it's funny, like a destiny to be a greeter. We don't think of a greeter as being something much, but it's actually really profound what a greeter does. I know when I first went to Unity of Tri-Valley, which is a New Thought church here in Dublin, I still remember the guy who greeted me. I came in, Julian, they didn't have any kids, Julian was the only one. It was Wayne Levitt. He came, he found a little table for us to sit at. He gave Julian crayons. He was so nice. And I just remember that, and I'm like, he was my first experience of that community, and he took such good care of us, and he was never, it's fine, we'll just whatever you need. And through the whole service, he's checking us out, making sure we're okay. So we say a greeter as if like, greeter, it's just happy and smiling, but it makes a huge difference. And that's the whole point of giving our gifts and our talents. Everything matters. Everything matters. Last week, Beth Stiles was not able to be here. And she sent out an email to many of us about what she does before service. And we all read that. We're like, what? So there's service that you see, the people that come in, and then there's a service behind the scenes. Now, when Jack and I just started this, I used to put the chairs up. That was pretty much all I did. So I was reading Beth's list, and I'm like, this is stuff she just created. She just started thinking, here's something that needs to be done. Here's something that needs to be done. She never asked anybody. She never told anyone she was doing it. She just did it. And I was looking at that list. I'm like, that's awesome. But to me, that's the gift of generosity. It's small. A lot of times, as we heard in the reading today, it's like stealth giving. Nobody notices. Like, I'm looking at this give thanks. I don't know when you came and did that. It took me a while to figure out what it said. Because I was over here and I can only see every other letter. I'm like, what is that? For you on the sides, it says give thanks. But Diane's a stealth giver. She comes in and starts changing things. It makes beauty. And I know all of you give. I've seen people vacuuming out there. Yvonne, you put a sign out there for the books. Like, didn't you see a need there? 80 had books out there. She was and Yvonne said, I'm going to make a sign so people know they can make it. That's the coolest stuff. That's our gifts and our talents to whatever we see, and then giving of it. It makes the world a better place. So in conclusion, I have a long conclusion, just so you know. I was rushing through those points so I get to my long conclusion. I have a friend on Facebook who I was reading this week. I'm going to put this down. Oh, I'm holding it. To do good has how to feel good. That it's doing the good that actually makes us feel good. Often we want to wait till we feel good to do good. And he was reversing that. It's when you do good, when you give of yourself, is when you start to feel really good. The Bhagavad Gita says the same thing. So a lot of times, in the Western tradition, we have, by their fruits we will know them. So a lot of times we look at the fruits, like what's the results? The Bhagavad Gita puts a little different shift on that. It says it's not about the fruits. It's not about the results. It's about the doingness. And that when we do it with love, when we give of generously from our hearts, with a heart wide open, just to do our best, it might not be exactly what's needed, but we gave with our heart. And so as we give ourselves, it's a little risky. People might say, well, let's do it this way, or let's do it that way, or that doesn't quite work, but that doesn't matter. That's the results. And that's, by the way, the shared part of shared leadership. But the energy, that energy of movement, that movement of not just sitting and waiting, but going out there, that's the beauty of it. The moment you start moving in a direction to be of service, to give of yourself, that's the good right there. It's not in the result. It's not whether it worked out perfectly or didn't work out perfectly. That's the joy of giving, is the actual act of giving, not the result, not even the look on someone's face. Like, I go with the expectation they're going to be so happy when I give this to them. I mean, that's why stealth giving is really cool. I look at what Beth does every week before service. She doesn't come, and we don't all go say, wow, Beth, I noticed you swept today. That's really great. We don't do that, and yet she still does it. Why does she do it? And I'm just pointing because I know that she does it, because she finally let us know. But I know all of you do this. We do it because of the joy. And so if we want to know the abundance of joy of our gifts, of who we are in our family, in our communities, in the world, is we just keep giving of ourselves. It's the joy of doing. To do good is the good itself, is to feel good. So we have these attacks that happened in Paris. That's kind of overwhelming, the amount of pain that was there. And I was reading through Facebook back and forth throughout the day. And of course, there's many reactions. There's many perspectives. A lot of the perspectives were saying, well, 45 people were killed in Lebanon the day before. We never heard anything about it. People being killed in Kenya. And it seemed like the list kept growing. There's two reasons why I think Paris was focused on. The first reason is because it's not normally a place where there's violence. I think when we hear bombing in Beirut, I don't think it's that anyone thinks it's okay, but it's not unusual. This is the only time since 1962 that Paris has had to call for a state of emergency, and the greatest violence that's been on their land since World War II. And I think in our minds we have places that are safe and places that we don't think of as safe. So it's even in the Bay Area, we don't like violence that happens in the city, but we know that statistically there's more violence there. If that same violence came out to Livermore, we would be shocked and horrified, because we see that, we have a perception this is a safe place where that level of violence doesn't happen. So I think it's a perceptual thing as well. Like, that's a safe place. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I just think we're human beings. But there's another part, I think, why. Because I actually felt this when 9/11 happened. Because I grew up, for those of you who have heard previous talks, I grew up watching the news, world news, every night of my life. My dad was big on politics and what was happening. And so what I saw was pain every day on the news. So when I saw 9/11, I was still seeing it on the news. I was not living in New York City or Washington, D.C. at the time. And so still, it was, to me, just more news of pain. And I was so surprised at the response. I'm like, I had similar response that I saw yesterday, which is, there's this pain happening every day. Why suddenly does this pain matter, or these people's lives matter, than all the people are getting murdered and killed every day? And the conclusion, the understanding, not even the conclusion, the understanding that I have is it's too much. I don't think humanly we are meant are able, physically, emotionally, mentally able to take in the amount of pain that's happening on this planet every day. If we really sat down and started, even as people started listing, oh my God, it's never ending. The pain. And first of all, let's just shift it a little so we know ISIS has actually lost about 25% of their army. So they're not gaining in strength, they're losing strength. But when we're in that pain, and we all know this just even on a personal level, when we're in that pain, that seems to be suddenly all we can see. And so if we start focusing on all the pain and all the darkness, that gets overwhelming. And guess what happens? We get inertia. We stop moving. We just sit and go, oh, I can't take. We get paralyzed in the horror and the pain. So I actually don't think we are meant to put all of our attention on all the pain, because that just stops life and that just creates more pain. So for me, when we see pain, it's a call to action to be more passionate and active, to be agents of light, to be a place of transformation for this planet. So in 2016, Centers for Spiritual Living has said they wanted to have a theme for all the centers who are interested in joining, and we're going to join, and it's called A World That Works for Everyone. It's the first time our organization has come together and said, let's all have the same theme so we can work collectively together. Now, there's been one of the arguments that some people have said is exactly what I said earlier. How dare us go out and tell people how the world works for everyone when our own organization still has so many problems within it? We should fix our own organization before we go out into the world. And that's the idea of we have to be perfect before we can be of service to the rest of the world. I believe as we continue to give service to the world, that will continue to perfect our organization. It's a law of circulation. I also believe that, there's two things. Growing up watching the news all the time, I did go into overwhelm. I used to have to fall asleep or I couldn't, it was too much for me to take in. I took it more in emotionally. My family was more intellectual about it. And I would think about the people on this planet who've been great leaders, whether they're spiritual leaders, a Jesus, a Buddha, a Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, whether they're political leaders. They've just been great leaders. And I remember thinking as a young person listening to the news, and the world is still in so much pain. And that was part of my existential crisis, is because I would always say, well, what can I do? And I'm like, well, there's been leaders who are way, way beyond me, and they weren't able to shift this. And I finally came to the conclusion, if the world is ever going to change, it's going to take more than one person. It's going to take big numbers of people. And then when I was in a New Thought ministerial school, it wasn't, it wasn't Centers for Spiritual Living. Prior to that, I was in an independent New Thought ministerial school. I was taking a world religions class. Hillary Anderson was our teacher, and we were taking, in the world's religions, she threw the I Ching, which is sort of a tarot card in China, Confucius Taoist philosophy. And so someone asked the question, this is back in 1991. Someone asked, what's the future of New Thought? And she rolled the dice, and the answer came, and I've always remembered this. I don't remember anything else about the class. I remember this because it really got me thinking. The answer for the future of New Thought was to send armies marching. Now, I grew up reading historical fiction, and Jim, who has served on the Marines, he understands this more than anyone. And the thing that I remember when I was reading all these books, and I even read in the last 10 years War and Peace by Tolstoy, the thing that always amazes me when they talk about these tens of thousands of people marching, and that was just like a battalion, it wasn't the whole army. And I would try to picture in my head all those people, like 10,000 people just marching towards one single battle. And so when and then you have the army, the Navy, the Air Force. There's so many coming from so many different angles. So that's why it's always stuck with me. So you send armies marching. I'm like, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And so when we look at what's happening on the planet, we don't need to just do the work individually. We need communities like this. We need these communities to connect with other communities who are doing this work. We need to be part of that huge force of light to create light on this world. And we do it both individually and collectively. So again, people love to argue either or. Well, this isn't about groups coming together, it's about every individual doing their own work. Yes, but it's also about groups coming together as individuals, because single individuals haven't been able to bring in the light that we need, that if we're really going to make this big quantum leap that people keep talking about, this big shift, it's going to take massive amount of people doing the light work within themselves and as communities. So Centers for Spiritual Living is just gathering its own forces. It's one force up to create a world that works for everyone for light. There's other Unify, the Global Oneness Day. There's people all over the planet working on unifying this energy, bringing it together to create light. So the question is, what I want you to be with is how important is this one little tiny community in that process? How important do you believe that this community can have a vital impact in what's happening on the planet of the Earth? Because what I believe is, as every one of us individually makes a shift and we heal a place of darkness within us, so we heal an enemy force within us. And to me, one of those enemy forces is saying we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not light enough, we're not strong enough. As we pray to know that is light, that's untrue, dissolve into the nothingness from which it came. And we do that more and more individually, and as a community, we're healing the planet every time that happens. We are a place of light every time we do work. We have a choice as this community. This community has been going along for 2 years. I think we're at a choice point, or at least I know I was at a choice point in these last few weeks. I've been with it. Because what we've noticed is the giving is down financially. That really what's keeping this whole community alive financially, as our board of trustees are really have really committed to financially giving to this community. The numbers on Sundays, about the same, they're going down a little bit. And so I thought to myself, I have to make a choice here. Do we end or do we move forward? It's a lonely question, first of all, because I knew I had to, that was something I had to decide, and no one could do it for me. And it didn't come easily. It kept me up nights. Before this ever happened, though, I realized I can't quit. I really believe in what we have here. I really believe that this community is making a difference in people's lives now, and can make a difference in so many other people's lives if we all just keep giving of our resources, if we keep giving of our gifts and our talents, if we all commit to being generous and giving to this community, and this community starts bonding with all the other communities, we can be part of this extraordinary band of light. And there's always those moments. I was watching on Friday how the women got the vote, and I didn't know. I'm sorry. I apologize for all the women in the room. I didn't know the history of that. I thought it was Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. They started the process, but they're not who got the federal vote. That actually happened. It was a HBO movie, Iron Jawed Angels. It was Alice Paul and Lucy Burns were the main leaders of the movement. Started in 1910, and they got the vote in 1920. There were moments along the way that they could have quit. That would have made total sense for them to quit. The women who were with, there was a moment when the people who were with Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton rejected Alice Paul and Lucy Burns. They say, you're too uppity. You're not following the nice protocol here that we've gotten into. And so there was fighting, and they broke off with them. That would have been a good time to quit. The main women rejected you. When we went to World War I, they were doing these silent resist in front of the White House, silent sentinels is what they call them, and they had these signs demanding vote. And people were saying, we are going to war. You cannot picket. You can't do this for a wartime president. That means you're anti the soldiers that are going across. And so what Alice Paul, who's an amazing woman, said, okay, we won't let mothers stand, but we need to keep going. She thought about it. She wasn't sure, but once she made that decision, and it was from that standing and the continuing, just keep saying yes when there's all these reasons to say no, is why we have the vote today. I mean, I just sobbed when I watched that movie. I had no idea. It was extraordinary, but it took action. It didn't take passivity. It wasn't like we're just going to sit and hold and pray and know that the women are going to get a vote. Not that that doesn't help, it does, but it also takes action. It takes us to move forward. Just plain sitting isn't enough. We have to act if we want to bring heaven on earth. And so as I give thanks to all of you for the gifts and the talents, greeting everybody so lovely, and having your team and all the people who give all the time, I am so grateful to you. We wouldn't be here 2 years later if all of you hadn't already been giving generously. The question is, do you want to go with me to that next place? Do we want to grow this community? Do we believe in the community and give a little bit more of our time and our treasures and our talents to this community because we believe what is possible, that we believe that we can be part of this transforming energy of light in our own lives? Because as we commit to not only the Tri-Valley area, but to the planet. I was telling Beth, one of the things I learned from Reverend Michaels, when he started that community, Agape Community, it was a brand new community, and from the very beginning, with this small group of 20 people, they called it the Agape International Community. They just claimed it. We are here for the world. We are not here just for LA, and we are here where everything we do is impacting the planet. We get to choose how big or small we think our lights are. We get to choose how big or small our choices are on this planet. So thank you all for your gifts and your talents. I continue to give you thanks for gifts and talents. And I invite you this week to go through that process as that I went through as an individual. How committed do you want to be to this community? How much do you want to give to this community for it to become more than we've ever before seen, to go past where we've been in the 2 years into a whole new way of being? So, thank you. Let's pray.